Deed-Chek can automatically draw bearings and distances along the lines that you draw. By default, the bearing is placed above the line with the distance below. This happens automatically as you draw each line. You can turn this feature on or off by clicking the Annotations button, which is actually on this toolbar off the screen because I've got the screen shrunk so small. Or you can go to the Settings menu and turn it off. And now when you draw lines, there are no annotations. However, the annotations are actually still there. They are actually a part of the line object itself. In the case of these lines here, they're just turned off. If I click the Edit button and then click on the line, you can see that the annotation setting is turned off. And if I turn it back on, the annotation is turned back on. Suppose you need to change a lot of annotations. Using the method I just showed you could get pretty tedious. Instead, click the little drop-down arrow on the Change command and select Annotations. Now when you click on a line, its annotation toggles on or off. Or even better, just drag a window around them. These annotations are also automatically calculated. If you change the length of a line, the distance is automatically updated to the new length. And if you rotate the line, the bearing is automatically updated. You can also move the annotations. Suppose I want the bearing and distance to be both on the same side of this right-of-way line. I'll select the line and then click the Edit button. And here on the Annotations tab, we have an assortment of options for annotation placement. By default, the annotations are placed above and below the lines as you've just seen. But if I uncheck the automatic setting, then I can use the other settings here. Notice that the placement options are based on either the right or left side of the line. This is always in relation to the direction of the line. So in our case, I want them to be above the line. This means since the direction of this line is northeast, going up, then if I was standing at the starting point of that line, I would want the annotations to be on the left. So the bearing is already on the left side, so all I need to do is move the distance to that side as well. And now when I save the changes, the annotations have been moved to the new position. So let's take another look at the Annotations settings. You can mix and match any of these combinations as needed. And if you only want to show the bearing or the distance, you can use the Hide option to do that. If the Custom option is selected, it means that the annotations has automatically been dragged to a new location. You can't do that from this dialog, but the setting is listed here to let you know that that has occurred. So let's close this dialog and do a custom annotation. To do a custom annotation, you must right-click the drawing and then pick the Move Line Label command. So here we have a tree that's in the way, so I want to move the annotation over just a bit. So to do this, I'll right-click the drawing. That brings up the pop-up menu, and I'll select Move Line Label. Next, I'm going to click on the annotation that I want to move, and then drag it to its new location. The next step is to set the direction, and as you can see, I can set the direction just by moving the mouse, or if I just hit Enter, it'll keep the original direction, which is what I want to do here. Let's do that again. I'll right-click and select Move Line Label and select the annotation, and this time it picks up both the bearing and distance, and I'll drop it off to the new location, and they've both been moved. But if I want to move them separately, I can do that too. So I select the line and then Edit, go into Annotations, and here we have a setting, Keep Bearing and Distance Together, and this only applies when you've moved the annotation off in a custom location. So if I uncheck that, now they're no longer together and I can move them separately. There's one more thing to show you about annotations, and that is what happens when they don't fit on a line. So here you can see approximately how long a bearing annotation is. Now I'm going to draw another line underneath it, and I'm going to draw it fairly short. In fact, this line is so short that the annotation text is too long for it. When this happens, the program automatically switches the annotation to a line label. And if we go to the Tools menu, and then Curve and Line Tables, you can see that the bearing and distance have automatically been placed in a line table. Line and curve tables are covered in a separate video, so I'm not going to say any more about them here. The point I wanted to make is how annotations are automatically checked to see if they fit on the line, and they're placed in a line table if not. And this only applies if the line's properties are set to automatic placement. Now before ending this lesson, let's go back to the Change button. A few moments ago, I showed you how to click the down arrow to see a list of the change commands. And then I showed you to select the Annotations option. You're likely to use this command quite a bit, so we've actually made it the default action for the Change button. In other words, if you want to invoke the Annotation Toggle command, you don't really have to click the drop-down list. All you have to do is click the Change button, and it goes into action.